everybody. Welcome to Your Money Map, sponsored by the Alliance for Lifetime Income. I'm your host, Jean Chatzky. Very glad to have all of you with me today. We are live a little earlier than usual. Why? Well, because our government is going to test the national security system, and phone alarms everywhere will be going off simultaneously. We didn't want to subject you to that if it was coming from our studio. And so we decided to kick off just a little bit earlier today. But we're glad to have you with us as always. If you've got questions, if you've got comments, put them in the chat. Put them in the comments section, whether you are joining us on Facebook or joining us on LinkedIn. I always have my eye out for what you're asking, and I'm happy to incorporate it into our conversation. And our conversation today is going to be not just a good one, it's going to be an important one. I can count back in hours, not days, not weeks, not months, not years, but hours to the last time I thought that I was getting scammed. About 2 a.m. in the morning last night, I got an alert on my phone that somebody was trying to use my credit card, and they sent me one of those security codes that was good for 10 minutes. I didn't hear it, of course, because I was sleeping and my phone was off. But when I woke up this morning, I saw it. I was in a panic. I called my credit card company. Turned out it was nothing. It was some sort of phishing expedition. But there you go. There you go. That's what's happening these days. And the good news is we have the foremost expert in the country on technology, on scams, on how protecting yourself requires some cyber hygiene in order to help us stay on the straight and narrow. So let me tell you a little bit about Kim Komando as I introduce you to her. Kim is a tech expert. She is a radio host. She's a web entrepreneur. Every day she has a 3-hour call-in talk radio show every week. It airs to 420 stations around the country. 6.5 million listeners tune in. She's also got an amazing newsletter that gives me everything that I need to know about trying to keep my technology clean. You can subscribe to that. It's free at getkim.com, and you read her pretty much everywhere. She's got books and newsletters and syndicated columns. And Kim, let me just say thank you so much for being here today. We're thrilled to have you.
I'm happy to be here, Jean. I mean, anytime, if we can save just one person from losing their money, I feel like it's time well spent.
Exactly. And you're already getting love in the comments. Somebody says,
Good.
welcome to our digital goddess. So
Yes.
there you go. So when you think about the sort of fraud and scams and I don't even know what you want to call them, the ne'er-do-well
Right.
things that are happening today, how would you characterize them? I mean, how have things changed over the last 5-10 years in a way that is causing us to lose so much money and so much sleep to
Right.
these sorts of scams?
Well, number one, I'm very proud of you that your phone is off when you're sleeping, because otherwise that would have woken you all up, all crazy. 10, 15 years ago, I mean, the big deal was that 419 scam, right? The Nigerian scam, where it was like, they have selected you out of everybody in the entire internet for you to select, or for you to get all those riches from those kings in Africa, right? And you are so lucky to do that, but you just had to pay a few fees, the processing fees, the attorney fees. Okay, those days are long gone. And it used to be also, I don't know if you remember this, Jean, full of typos, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then also maybe the logos weren't exactly right, and the language wasn't quite as if you could tell that it was somebody who was a foreign speaker. Not anymore. I mean, now, for example, just this past week, we had Tom Hanks pitching some type of dental program on Instagram and all over social media, but it wasn't Tom Hanks. Mr. Beast, that big, wild YouTube guy, He was part of a deep fake scam. I guess, I don't know, giving away free phones or something like that. And so the scammers have gotten a lot more sophisticated. And I hate to use the word hackers because they're not hackers. Okay. These are just scammers. This is organized crime. And if they can target you and if they can get enough information about you, and then to make you feel vulnerable, to make you feel secure, to make you feel loved, whatever it is, because they're going after emotions now. Because remember, what sells? Three things sell: fear, sex, or greed. Okay, those are the three things. If you look at any ad, anything that gets happens: fear, sex, greed. Okay, so if they can go after any of those type of emotions with you, then they know that they have a target.
What one of the interesting statistics, and the FTC, of course, puts out a lot of information about who's getting scammed and by how much money they're losing, was that in fact it's younger people who are more frequent victims of scams. But when it comes to who's losing the most money,
Right.
then it's people in retirement. What's going on? Are they different scams targeting different groups of people, or is it just there are a lot of millennials online?
That's a really good question. I think that they're targeting using different tools, just like Madison Avenue will target different people based on their demographic and their age. I mean, they're not going to try to sell you or me Red Bull, okay? Because we know like our caffeine intake will be crazy, okay? But they're going to be targeting the Gen Zers with a vodka and a Red Bull. And so, like, so a younger person scam would probably be this: you get a text message. It says, "Hi, I'm Vicky, and I just wanted to let you know that I'll meet you at 2 o'clock." And so you text back and go, "I don't know a Vicky, and I think you have the wrong number." And then Vicky says, "Oh, you sound like such a nice guy. I bet you that we could be friends." So they go back and forth in texting probably for 2 or 3 days before Vicky will say to this person, "I have a way for you to make some money." And then the victim will say, "Really? Because I was looking forward for a $100,000 Tesla. There's no way that I can afford that car right now, and I really want the Plaid." And then the scammer will say, "Well, I have a brand new cryptocurrency that you can be part of. And how about I send you a link and then you can download the app and then you can get this new cryptocurrency." And so, the person puts the $100 in, the $100 magically turns into $800. And that Gen Zer is going, or the millennials going, "This is great. My parents have no idea what they're talking about when they tell me that crypto is bad." Okay. So what has happened behind the scenes is, yeah, it looks like that $100 has changed into $800, and then that Gen Z or millennial will put in $1,000, and that turns into $5,000. You see where we're going.
I
But
do.
what this is this is a fake crypto app. They are controlling everything in there. It's not really tied to Coinbase or anything like that. And so versus, let's go to somebody who's older, they might get a phone call, say, for example, saying that it's from their bank. And we did talk to you immediately, and you need to call this number. And then when you call that number, it answers as Bank of America or Wells Fargo. And you're like, "Oh, thank God that you told me that there was something going on with my account." And then the story continues that maybe that your account has been leaked to some foreign exchange, and that we want you to have that money back here in the United States, and so you need to help us. And or it could be that older person gets a call that says there's child pornography in your iCloud account or in your Google account, and we need your money in order to help eradicate this and get rid of this because you want child porn off, right? Or it's the AI scams. It's a deep fake scam. And the voice cloning scams, they're going crazy right now too.
I think a lot of people, they've certainly heard of AI, but maybe not of voice cloning. Tell us what that is and how it works and how it can seem real, especially to
Yeah.
perhaps an older person.
Yeah, and really just about anybody. I had a call on the show. A woman called in because she got a call from her daughter, and the daughter said, "Oh my God, Mom, I don't know what to do. I need your help because my husband Will just died." She's like, "Oh my God, Will just died." "Yeah, Will got in a car accident." Okay. And then the daughter's like, "I need some help. Can you just send me like $1,000 right now because I just have to figure out funeral arrangements." Okay. It was a deep fake of the daughter's voice. The husband was fine.
How did they do it?
Because on social media, they just need, and I say they being somebody who wants to clone a voice, they need anywhere between, say, 30 seconds and 5 minutes of somebody's voice in order to clone that voice. Obviously, the more time that they have with that person's voice in order to make more data points and data sets with that voice, the better off it'll be. But for just basic, voice scams, you can do it online absolutely free. Okay. You pay maybe $15 a month if you want more words in that vocabulary, but it's free. I mean, you can try it, you can do it, you can upload it. And so it will take the nuances of a person's voice. There's this guy in the UK and he got a call from his boss. Boss says, I need to transfer $250,000 right now to our supplier in Hungary. Okay. This is your boss telling you to do this. Okay. So, of course, the CFO transfers the $250,000 to the Hungarian supplier who wasn't a Hungarian supplier. And then that money was sent off to Mexico. Okay. But so if you get a call from your boss and it sounds unusual, it may not be your boss. You get a call from a grandchild that says, I'm in desperate trouble and I need money or gift cards. And that should be a big red flag right there. Anytime somebody asks you for a gift card, just go like, whoa, put the brakes on. And it could be your bank. It could be, and they can actually spoof the caller ID to say Bank of America, whatever it may be. So
That's what Rachel is just commenting. She said an older family member was contacted by quote unquote border control, and it appeared to be a number from border control. She got pretty far into believing the scam before realizing it was a scam, and it was super scary for all. So when you get an outbound communication, when somebody calls you or texts you, like happened to me last night, texting my phone, or emails you, should the automatic response these days be, I don't believe this?
yeah, unfortunately, it does. You have to say, let me call you back. Or even if you think it's your child that is screaming on the phone, it may not be your child screaming on the phone. So if there's any way that you can have somebody else in the house, call your child and say, hey, are you okay? Or your mom or your dad or whatever it may be. I mean, and they're just, really, it's an evil thing when you think about it, to put somebody through a mental case like that, or even just border patrol like this person talked about. They don't care. The scammers don't care. They just want your money. And so you have to be on your guard. You have to double check everything. And, my best advice is that if you get a call from somebody, don't ever just hit redial to call them back. You want to make sure that you have an authentic number. And whatever you do, don't Google tech support, because you're going to end up at a scammer site too.
When we talk on this show, we often talk about issues of retirement. Have you heard about scams in the world of retirement or retirement savings that people need to be aware of?
Absolutely. I mean, anytime you're looking at the money train, you may start looking at some YouTube videos, or you may see something on TikTok or whatever, where somebody promises that, they're going to triple your retirement account in 3 to 5 months if only you turn it all over to them. Or they have, as I mentioned, this brand new crypto that, it's a sure thing. Okay. Sure thing and cryptocurrency, they never go together in the same sentence. Again, they just doesn't happen. You have to preserve your wealth. You have to, guard everything. And even if it's a family member, I mean, I was checking my email this morning and I don't remember what it was, but some woman said that her sister put her retirement money into some type of cryptocurrency and she's tripled it. And she was wanting to know my opinion if this was a good thing that she should do, because the sister saw it on YouTube. So I guess that makes it real. Okay. I don't know.
If it's on television, then it's real. Maybe. I don't
Is that
know.
it? It's on the internet. It must be true. So, there's no such thing as get quick riches, right? There's no overnight success. I mean, Jean, you and I are both an example of an overnight success, right? No, we've both been doing this a really long time. And so you have to start really safeguarding everything that you've earned, everything that you've saved to this point. Because if the scammers take it away, I'm telling you, you're not going to get it back. You're just not going to get it back.
Janet says, I've Googled the company name or the subject and the word scam, which can reveal whether it's a scam. And she says it works. It's very revealing. So that's
Yeah.
just
That's
another
good.
trick to put in your back pocket. I know that there are a lot of questions that you get asked on your radio show, that you answer in your newsletter. And by the way, we already have people who said they got Kim. They went online to
Okay.
getkim.com and sign
Thank
up
you.
for your newsletter. And if you haven't done that, you definitely should. But I wanted to ask a couple of these sort of questions that I know you get asked all the time. The first
Sure.
one is, when it comes to banking online, when it comes to protecting our finances by banking online, what are the rules for doing that as safely as possible?
Well, of course, you're going to go through the whole steps, right? You're going to make sure that you have a secure password. Let me in password is not a good one, and make sure that you have unique passwords wherever you go, whatever account that you have. Okay, set up any type of alerts that you can on your bank account, and also on all your credit cards, so that this way, if you get a transaction over $50, or if the transaction is even less than $50. Sometimes they're just going to bang your credit card for like, or get into your bank account for like $1 just to see if they can, because they know that you're not going to notice. Which also reminds me that you need to make sure that you actually look at your accounts. A lot of people are afraid to look at their bank accounts, right? Because maybe it's depressing. It's like, oh, that's going to cause me a lot of anxiety if I check my checking account or my savings or my Fidelity or my Morgan Stanley or whatever it may be, because I'm hoping that it would have been more. But you really need to get in there. Use a VPN, virtual private network, and basically it's just an encrypted tunnel that's just between you and them, so scammers and hackers, whoever, can't get in. Don't do your banking at a public Wi-Fi hotspot, and I know that's a lot of people are like, yeah, but I have to. Well, if you have to do that, you're better off just doing it on your phone on a cellular connection and not getting on Wi-Fi at all. Um, and it really comes down to having a lot of common sense, when you start dealing with this, and using the tools that are available to you. Like, I know with my Morgan Stanley account, I have it set up really, really difficult to get in, because it requires like a one-time passcode every time I want to do a wire transfer, anytime there's a transaction. And so, yes, it does pose a hassle, but these are these safeguards that are in place that, unfortunately, a lot of the banking institutions won't come in and say, you know what, I just want to tell you about how you can safeguard your account. I
Right.
don't know why, but they just don't do that. So it's kind of up to you to go forward with that. And then you can take it to extremes. And by extremes is that you have two computers, two laptops, two Chromebooks, whatever it may be. And then one you only do your financial transactions on. That's it. The other one, that's where you're going to do your social media, you're going to get your email. And so the whole idea is that if you get a phishing scam on machine number two, they're not going to be able to access the accounts on machine number one.
Yeah, it seems like a smart way to go. For people who've never set up a VPN, what exactly do you have to do in order to get one in your house or on your computer?
Well, it used to be a lot of work. And it used to be where you really needed to be like that geek of the week. You're like, yes, I took an hour and I set up a VPN today. And you're like, oh, praise God, I did that. Okay. Not anymore. One of our sponsors is ExpressVPN. So that's the one that I recommend, of course. And I've used it myself for years. You just download the app, and then you just answer a few questions, and then you click one button to connect. That's it. And yes, you have to pay for it. The worst thing you can do is get a free VPN. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, I don't want to spend $7 a month for a VPN. I need it free. But I'll go to Starbucks every day for $10, which I don't understand. Okay. So with a VPN, you allow it encrypts everything that you're doing at that particular session. When you don't want to have a VPN, you can just turn it off. But there's really no reason. I find myself, I don't even turn it off, because it used to be that VPNs would slow you down. That's not the case anymore. And some VPNs, they actually will store some of your information and transactions on their servers. What I like about ExpressVPN is it does it all in RAM, so it's not saved anywhere. But back to the free VPNs, if you have one, you should remove it. They're always popping up. And why is the product free? Why can't you get a free VPN? Okay. Anytime the product is free, you are the product.
Yeah.
So what they're doing is they're capturing all your data and they're selling it to who knows who.
A bunch of comments are coming in. I want to make sure that we get to them. Rick says, this is off topic a little, but I'm a trustee for a very large estate, and I keep getting fake calls and texts from investors. I never answer. I just delete the texts and never open. Is that the correct thing to do? He says, thank you, my goddess.
um, yeah, that's a hassle because what happens now with obituaries is that you get to go to a different type of tunnel and a different food line, and the scammers are particularly going after you. You can turn on your phone. You can say only let calls come through and only let text come through on my contact list. The problem with that is that if you are expecting a call, say for example, from a doctor,
Mm.
and they're not necessarily on your contact list, that call is going to go straight to voicemail. But if you're getting a lot of them, that may be something that you might want to try. In addition to that, most of the carriers right now, they have their own built-in spam calls, and they're where they'll get rid of the robocalls. And so whether you're on Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, whatever it is just go over to their website and you can probably just download a free app there. We have links to them over at komando.com. But that's also another example of, these big companies, they have these tools, but they don't come out and tell you like, hey, just want to let you know you can get a free robocall blocker from us. But I hope that helps you out.
Yeah, and Capiz writes, I learned the hard way after they grabbed $1,500 out of my checking account. If there's any doubt, call the bank number on your card, then you know it's your bank.
Yeah,
I think that's
exactly. And
really good advice.
never use a debit card. Never. I mean, I had a call a couple of weeks ago from a woman who I don't know, she got scammed out of $1,000 or something like that because she was buying stuff online using her debit card, which is just no. You don't want to do that at all.
You don't want to do it because if your number is compromised, I mean, most
Yes.
debit cards, like credit cards these days, have zero liability policies. But if your number is compromised, it can take some time to get the money back.
Yeah, actually, her bank said they wouldn't even reimburse her. So
Wow.
I told her to go up. I said, you need to keep going up the food chain until you do get, maybe speak to a supervisor, an account manager, whatever it may be.
When we are thinking about the older folks in our lives, our older parents, how should we be protecting them? How do we set up their devices in a way that makes them easy enough to use and deal with, but not subject to massive fraud?
See, and that depends on the mental acuity of an older adult. Um, I recently took a call from a gentleman who was trying to keep tabs on his mother, and his mother's 90 years old, and she was buying everything under the sun, and she was falling for all these scams. So I recommended that he set up parental controls on mom's phone so that this way she couldn't buy anything in the Apple App Store. She couldn't do any in-app purchases, and also restrict it just down to where mom would only get phone calls and texts from contacts. And so, so parental controls, it may sound like, yeah, well, I'm using these with my kids, but you might want to think about using them with your mom or dad or an older adult in the family as well. And I think, I was saying like, with my mom, if I set that up, she would have been like, yeah, I get that. You're doing that to protect me. But they may not even need a phone at all. And that's the other flip side is that,
That's
you know,
interesting.
is it really necessary? Because what you could do is you can get mom or dad an Amazon Echo Show. Phenomenal device. Okay. And get the video version if you're going to get one, because it is the show. It is a video version rather. And because what mom or dad can do is say, hey, Alexa, I want to talk to Jean. And then all of a sudden it just fires up and it calls Jean. I want to talk to whoever it may be. And then you can say, check in on mom. And then her video screen will just pop up. And so there's no need for any type of holding of device doing anything. The other thing too is that this Amazon Alexa, if you are caring for an older person, is that they have a lot of really built-in tools. Cost like $20 a month. But if you're a caregiver, because I've been there, let me tell you, this Amazon Alexa show is really fabulous because it does allow you to, it'll alert you if you say, if you don't see mom or dad by 9 a.m., I want to know, and make sure that mom and dad take their medicine if mom or dad falls. I mean, so there's different type of levels of technology that you can use to make sure that they stay safe, especially when and if they're still dealing with all financial stuff.
Are there any dangers in having these smart connected speakers and other devices in our homes, that they are keeping too much of our data, that they're not protecting our data, that we're at risk in any other way?
Well, it's kind of a catch-22, right? I mean, for the convenience, they are collecting our data. It doesn't mean that you have to just say, okay, well, here, open my Komodo and Amazon, you're just going to take everything that I own. There are ways that you can get into your settings now. It didn't happen in the past, where you can say delete the recording, say every 3 days or every 30 days. And you can do that on Google and on Apple and on Amazon. Uh, and but when it comes to collecting data, that's like a whole nother thing. And if you haven't looked at, say, myaccount.google.com, it's really interesting, fascinating. If you have a Google account, if you have a Google anything, you can see all the data that they're collecting about you, and you can also opt out. We've got ways you can opt out on. You can go to privacy.apple.com. You can opt out there, and you can opt out of Amazon, but they don't always make it as well. Facebook's the worst. Sorry, we're on Facebook, but as far as being able to opt out of the data, because there's just so many tentacles everywhere.
I know often people will ask you, how do they get off the dark web? Before you tell us how to get off it, can you explain to people who are just not really familiar what it
Sure.
is?
Um, the dark web, well, we have our internet that we see and we go to. And we type in happy addresses like hermoney.com or Komando.com or foxnews.com, whatever it is. And then we have another web, and they call it a dark web because there are a lot of bad things that happen on the dark web. I mean, you can hire a hitman, you can buy drugs, you can buy credit card numbers and social security numbers. You can actually, on the dark web, since we're talking about financial scams, is that you can buy a financial scam on the dark web. And so you say, I want to target 1,500 people that have a retirement savings account of over 1 million who were teachers or something like that. So you can really kind of fine tune your marketing. And then what you do is then they set you up with like software as a service, just like we would like use Photoshop on the internet. And then they give you all the tools that you need to send out your phishing scams via text or email, whatever it may be. And then if you pay extra, you also get an 800 number where their reps will actually answer that phone number. I mean, it's like a bad marketplace that you don't want to go to. And in order to even go on the dark web is that you have to use something called Tor, which is the onion router. And everything's for sale on the dark web. But you may be shocked to know that our data, my data, Jean, your data, everybody who's probably watching and listening and chatting right now, that all of our data is on the dark web. I mean, there's really just no way to avoid that. And because there's so much data, that the cost, like for a credit card, could maybe be $5. A social security number could be $10. And so, but when you start adding all those pieces together, that's when it may cost $25 to get, a full rundown on somebody that you could use. So as far as getting your information off the dark web, there's really no way to do it. If anybody tells you that they can remove you from the dark web, I would be very skeptical because there are just too many merchants, too many. It's almost like an eBay and an Amazon once you go on the dark web. Now, I don't advise anybody to do that because you can go into areas that somebody could maliciously just put something on your computer to track everything that they do, everything that you do, rather. So what you want to do is if you really want to see if your data has been compromised, you can go to a website called Have I Been Pwned? That's PWNED. And then just type in your email address. And it'll tell you how many times it's available on the dark web, which is why it sounds like, we're always beating the drum, like, get a different password to make it long and hard and not easy to guess. And you're like, yeah, I get that. It's almost like when you have trouble with whatever your device and the tech comes over and you're all flustered and they turn it on and off and suddenly it works well again,
Right.
So, but, the bottom line is that you need a lot of, you just need a lot of common sense. And I know I said that a few times, but it really is that
It's
that they're around every single corner.
it's common sense, it's vigilance. Are there any other, basic to-dos on your list? I mean, we can maybe get a separate computer. We can get a VPN. We can use complicated passwords, maybe use a password manager. We can not transact on public Wi-Fi, as you said. Anything else on sort of your top pieces of advice for just keeping ourselves safe in this world where we all live and are going to continue to
Right.
live?
Uh, I'm noticing a trend from people that are buying things on Facebook and on Instagram because maybe you searched for, I don't know, a leaf blower someplace else and it was $50. And you're like, oh, well, then suddenly this ad pops up. It's like a leaf blower for $2.99. And you're like, oh, wow, lucky me. This is great. Okay. Of course, you're never going to see the leaf blower, but then they have your credit card numbers. And then we also have websites that look like Nike and Adidas, and that address is just a little off. Okay. And then you're going to be susceptible to crime. Let's say you're using ChatGPT and it says to download a file. Or you're using rather Bing AI, and if you're using Bing AI, it's happening really more with Bing because of sponsored results, because Microsoft is adding ads inside of Bing, and so that ad looks like it may be Bing ChatGPT talking to you, but it's actually an ad, and then you click on that ad, and then suddenly you have malware on your system. So it's like everywhere you turn, I know it's like just not going to go online anymore. Well, you don't have to do that, but you just have to be safe.
You just have to be safe. Elizabeth says, can't the cyber good guys shut down the dark websites, or do they just multiply too fast? I think I know the answer to that.
Yeah, and they're not in the United States. That's the problem. But we are taking down crime rings that are happening in the dark web. There's a side that says, I was speaking to the head of the FBI about this because I was like the same way. I mean, why don't you just shut it all down? I mean, why don't we just pull the plug? And he's like, well, we can't pull the plug because it's located all around the world. And if there are some traces of it here in the United States, then it actually allows them, they can go in and they can try to put together some type of profile to bring that ring down.
So frustrating, but so much amazing information. I know that everybody who's listening, Kim, is going to want to just keep on top of everything that you have to say. So getkim.com is how we get on your newsletter. What else should we do?
Tell 10 friends about kitkim.com. Aside from that, is that, of course, we have my radio show, and I do a daily show and a weekend show, and you can find your local affiliate near you over at the website. We've got podcasts. We have our daily tech update, daily life hack. We have a website. It's just, our whole mission is to make people, is actually to empower people, really, because knowledge is power. And so if we can bestow and help you, and if you can tell your family and friends about, all the stuff that we're doing here at the Commando Land, as we like to call it, that I would be really appreciative of all of that.
We will absolutely pay it forward. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for the education.
You betcha. Anytime, Jean. You're awesome.
Oh, right back at you. And if you all would like more information from us, you can go to protectedincome.org. And for information on this conversation specifically, including the resources that we have mentioned, protectedincome.org/commando. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you soon.